So last night at the Game Awards, big announcement, final one more thing announcement, blew everybody's mind, sort of. An announcement of a new Naughty Dog IP. Now we knew they were working on a new IP. We knew this. There were rumors it was going to be sci-fi related. Neil and a bunch of people at the team had alluded to this. Some of the job postings had signaled that maybe they were going in a different direction than like the really grounded realism of The Last of Us. We know that Uncharted is something they're done with, so they're looking for something new. And this new IP aims to be it. This, you know, I made a joke after I saw this on X, and I was just like, oh wow, I didn't expect Naughty Dog's new IP to be Concord 2, but oh, I'm here for it. People got like actually really mad. It's retro futurism. I thought it was funny because like it's the same general vibe of sort of 80s era space tech, whatever. For some reason, all of these games, I really do honestly, I think a lot of it was greenlit in the shadow of Guardians of the Galaxy. And those films popping off. I think a lot of people saw those, got inspired by it, and were like, ooh, we could do something like that. And so we've gotten all these sort of retro futuristic, quippy, quirky games. And most of them have been kind of bleh. Maybe this is the first one that really, really nails it. But we have the trailer. We're going to look at it. I do have thoughts. I'm not actually saying it's going to be Concord 2, but again, it's freaking funny how triggered and freaked out some people got when I called it Concord 2. I thought it was funny, but anyway, let's see the trailer. Let's do it. Let's do it. The suffering of generations must be endured to achieve our divine end. Ancient Sumerian scripture. In-game. So to be clear, I mean, they say in-game cinematics. They're saying this is actually what it looks like. We'll talk about the Witcher trailer later because they said something very interesting about that trailer in the little subtitle as well. But they are saying this is actually running. So everything we're going to see is what the game actually looks like. This is not a cinematic trailer. This isn't made by a different company. This isn't in-engine. This is what it will look like when you play it. Let's see. First thing people noticed, Porsche. I never know how to say it. All I remember is Roger from American Dad, who's like, I just like to say Porsche because then it takes longer to say it. So people have to listen to you say it longer. Porsche. Every time I see it, I'm like Porsche. Yeah, I can afford a Porsche. So you have to listen to me say it for longer. Every time I see it. Little weird product placement. That one, you know, I'm down for the Sony product placement. Like the Walkmans, you know, occasionally you get the Sony Zune, whatever it was. I know it wasn't actually Zune. I forget what the Sony one was called, but like I can get behind that stuff. This one feels out of pocket. Just, I don't think Sony owns Porsche, right? Sorry, Porsche. You pronounce the E? Oh, well, see, there I go. I don't know. But we'll continue. Coded messages, video disc 2, 32 minutes, 17 seconds. 3 + 2 + 1 = 6 for GTA 6. 7 means 7 days from now. S means sexy. So it's going in 7 days. We'll get a trailer for GTA 6 that will be sexy. Confirmed. I swear to God, for a second, I thought it was the exact same tattoo that Ellie had. I was like, what are we doing, guys? what's his name? It's like a pretty famous actor, Kumail Nanjiani. Kumail, yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that. Yeah, like there's a bunch of little bitty things in this shot. We know that Troy Baker is, I thought they said starring, but I guess not. So maybe co-starring or something. I'm not sure, but we know that he said stuff like that. Disorganized, acting alone, find his drive wiped, wanted posters. You see these. I'm guessing that this is going to be Neil Druckmann, Troy Baker's character. Find fence for jewelry, dead. Reporter's data drive at Crescent Systems storage. I don't like, it's all pretty standard sci-fi.
Jordan,
Tell me something good.
well, you're right, it checks out. He's hiding out around this Imperium moon.
Excellent.
How is that excellent? He's next to fucking Simperia. No one has left that planet in over 600 years. Anyone who even flies close to it is never heard from again.
Superstitions.
No. Superstitions are the crazy rumors about what happened on that planet. These are facts.
You worry too much.
You know what I worry just the right amount. I say, we wait for him to leave, or how about we find a new lead? He's not worth it. I'm wasting my time, aren't I?
Can you please claim him? I don't need another hunter swooping in.
Who is swooping? No one is crazy enough to go there.
He clearly is.
He is clearly desperate.
And so am I, so claim him, or I will find another agent.
Anyone else with all your fucking shit? Okay, alright, you know what? There, you're the boss.
Colin!
Thank you.
Listen, kid. I'll see you on the other side.
Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, Uncharted, and The Last of Us. So hopefully you can at least see like why I made the joke that it's Concord 2, because like similar vibe, a little different. Obviously it's not a 5v5 hero shooter. At least it better not be. Hopefully that's not the next trailer. Let's get the obvious stuff out of the way first. I mean, first things first with all Naughty Dog games. Facial animations, animation quality, production value is all ridiculously well done. Even down to like micro movements within lips and eyes, even ear movements. It's ridiculous, the level of detail. Okay? That is something you can't really deny. It's industry leading. It's ridiculously impressive. The other thing, like, of course, sound design seems really, really solid. Art design, if you really like retro futurism, this probably is right up your alley. I find it fascinating that so many of these games are striking similar visual styles around the same time period. I think it's usually because it's like parallel thinking, I think is the term, but it's like You know, you get inspired by similar stuff, even though you're in different studios at the same time. It's like, I remember watching the documentary Raising Kratos, and Cory Barlog was saying how he and the team kept seeing trailers for Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, which was coming from Ninja Theory. It's like this Nordic thing, and they're doing a no-cut camera, and they're doing all this crazy cinematic stuff. And they're like, are they reading our minds? Do they have a spy on the inside? Like, we're doing similar stuff. And they were freaking out about it. And it just ended up being parallel thinking. And with this, I mean, I think it's probably a similar thing where they got inspired around the same times with the same art styles as these other games that have come out since and that are coming down the pike as well. Personally, for me, this is where we're shifting out of the gear of objectivism, things where like we can say the game graphically looks very impressive. Animation wise, very impressive. Acting wise, I'm sure it's going to be stellar, as Naughty Dog games often are. But getting that out of the way, personal opinion alert, personal opinion, just Luke. I don't know, man. I'm like, I never thought I would see the day where Naughty Dog would reveal something and I just would be like totally uninterested. I want them to win me over, but the retrofuturism has just never really appealed to me. I think it goes back to my childhood because my name is Luke, and so people would always do the Luke, I'm your father thing. And growing up during the prequel era of Star Wars, everybody was constantly bringing it up to me. And so I just like burned out on Star Wars when I was little, and it's always been something I've, until I got older. I mean, nowadays I like Star Wars, it's fine. But especially like deep within me, the Star Wars vibe, the retro-futuristic vibe, the NASA punk vibe, all of that, I'm just like, it just doesn't do anything for me. Like for some people, they see this and it's like me with Ancient Egypt. It gets them giddy and excited. They love it. For me, it's the opposite. For me, it just doesn't do anything. I'm just like, okay. That being said, it's also like, it's a trailer of cinematics, not a cinematic trailer, but a trailer of cinematics, trying to establish tone and the vibe of the game. And the only look at what will potentially be what the game actually is like when you play it is this last little tidbit here. And we don't get much from it. We see this, so it seems that it's all going to be melee, or a lot of it's going to be melee focused at least. And you know, that's very different from what Naughty Dog has historically done. So that could be really interesting. But this last little bit is what I think could win somebody like me over to the game. And we just get a little snippet. So I don't think this trailer is meant to convince people like me that this is going to be our new obsession. I think this trailer is specifically meant to set the tone, set the vibe, and be like, look, we're doing something cool. That being said, they did talk about the game a little bit more. So with this, they offered a game description, and the game description reads, the Heretic Prophet is the newest franchise in development for the PlayStation 5 console from Naughty Dog, the studio behind the acclaimed Last of Us and Uncharted series. Set thousands of years in the future, Intergalactic puts players into the role of Jordan A. Munn, a dangerous bounty hunter who ends up stranded on Semperia, a distant planet whose communication with the outside universe went dark hundreds of years ago. Jordan will have to use all her skills and wits if she hopes to be the first person in over 600 years to leave its orbit. So presumably we're going to the planet. You're going to be stuck on that one planet. So if you're hoping that you can fly your Porsche around freely, like that's not what this game is. It seems like this is very much going to be based on this planet. It's going to be a Naughty Dog game. It's going to be cinematic. It's going to be narrative focused. I think the way they've doubled down on it is specifically Neil Druckmann said it is a character-based narrative game, but it has more gameplay complexity than anything they've ever done, gameplay depth specifically. So if you're expecting this to just be The Last of Us in space, you will probably be disappointed. It seems like they are really trying to do something different. And this marks another shift for Naughty Dog, which is something that they've wanted to do basically once every decade. They did Uncharted for a long time, and then they shifted out of the cartoony Amy Hennig era of Uncharted into the Neil Druckmann era of The Last of Us. through the 20 teens, basically. And now they're shifting into this new era. And with it, they've also completely restructured the entire company. This is something that was discussed a lot in the Grounded 2 documentary. I don't know if you guys saw the reaction we did to that, or if you just watched it yourself. It's a fascinating documentary, and I do recommend you check it out because it goes through the creation of The Last of Us Part 2 and everything that happened during COVID and all that. But one of the interesting things was, of course, them discussing how they managed to make the game in the middle of 2018, 19, 2020. And they just realized the crunch levels we're experiencing it's too much. We just can't do this. And so they pivoted and they spent a while restructuring everything, reworking a lot, changing their systems and processes so that they would not have that same struggle again. They didn't want to ever have crunch permeate through the studio, because if you are not aware somehow, Naughty Dog was for years known as like the studio you want to work for if you want to have a game of the year on your resume. If you can get there, you'll have a game of the year on your resume because they just make amazingly successful games. But you're probably not going to see your family much. Like, you're going to be working at the studio for 16, 18 hours a day. A lot of people sleep at the studio. There were stories of people that had air mattresses under their desk, and then they'd pull them out, inflate them, and sleep, and then wake up immediately and go back to work in the morning. That was normal. And it was one of those things where it was like, you don't have to stay and sleep at the studio. I mean, you could go home, but then we're all gonna know that you went home, and all of us who stayed and worked late, might make you look like you don't really care that much compared to Tim, who did. It's that peer pressure. I use a story example of when I worked in real estate. My boss, like the owner of the company, super sweet guy, but cutthroat, very hardcore. He had a policy where he was like, it was discussed to us. It was like, you want to be at your desk in your chair at the end of the day when he does his walk through the office. If you want a chance at getting promoted, at getting a bigger cut, at eventually being partner, you have to be in your chair and show him that you are a go-getter and you are hardcore. But he wouldn't do his walkthrough until like 7:30, 8:30 at night, because he would show up to work at 11 a.m. when we all got there at 8. But he would do his walkthrough at the end of his day at night. And so for us, like, we'd been there since 8 a.m. But if you wanted to stay on the boss's good side, you had to be in your chair. You could go home. The doors weren't locked. You could go home. But if your boss sees that your two coworkers are in their chair and you're not, guess who's not going to be at the top of any list of promotion, of special deals? If he's got a good deal that he could give you, do you think he's giving it to you when you're not in your chair when he does his walkthrough? No, it's going to the other two guys. Yeah, it's not going to you. So it's this peer pressure, toxic workplace where they don't on paper require you to be in your chair, but everybody knows that that's the policy. If you want to do well in this job, you have to overwork yourself. And that's what Naughty Dog did for years and years and years. And to their credit, coming out of COVID, they changed that. They pivoted away. They said, we're not going to do this again. They stopped hosting studio dinners. They used to serve dinner for everybody to kind of covertly encourage them to stay and work late. Didn't really, I guess, help anybody. It just pushed them to stay late because, you don't have to go out and get dinner. You can just stay here and work, eat at your desk. They stopped doing that. They put into place like portals for people to anonymously report problems, report issues with management, report overworking, be very, very open and clear about it. So they've completely restructured and gotten rid, allegedly, of all of that crunch. How that affects the future releases, I would guess it probably just means they take longer. I think that's what it means. It probably means when we hear about a release date that release date is prone to delays because they're not going to crunch to hit that deadline. They're going to just have to deal with it. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. But this is a big shift for them, not just in terms of the studio, but also in terms of vibe and tone and style. And for some people, this is exactly what they're looking for. This is a match made in heaven Love it. Even though we don't really know much about it at this point, we don't know what it looks like in terms of gameplay. We don't know about that. For some people, this is checking off all their boxes. For me, tone-wise, And in terms of like the setting and premise of the game, personally for me, it just doesn't do anything. I much more prefer hyperrealism. I like medieval settings. I like Egypt. I like pirates. Yeah, I like that type of thing. Fantasy, retrofuturism, just for me doesn't do anything special for me. But there is a potential for this to eventually do that for me. I just need to see more, as I think a lot of people are at. Now, because it's 2024, there's of course a mass downvote campaign hitting the game because the actress or actor has a shaved head, and it's Neil Druckmann. So there's going to be accusations of it being woke or whatever. I don't particularly care about any of that. I'm just saying, for me, it's just it could change my mind if we get like a gameplay trailer next year or something that really showcases something cool, then I'm in. But based on what we see here, like the Concorde Porsche blasting off, I just, for me, it doesn't do anything. This last shot gets me much more intrigued, but we have very little to go on based on this final little shot. So that's where I'm at. But they have okay, the top comment's funny. The trailer is 2 hours ago. Ew, it's so old we need a remaster. Oh no, I feel like Will Smith will slap me for making fun of her. This is not what I imagine Naughty Dog's next IP to look like at all. Like here's where I'm at in terms of this direction. I think they wanted to do something new, and I don't blame them. Imagine what it's like going into the studio making The Last of Us day in, day out with like intense gore. It's really dark. There's no levity to it. It's just soul-sucking misery in a game. I'm sure eventually they were like, can we do something else, please? Can we please do something else? Just shake it up a little bit. God damn. And they gave them the chance to do that. And here's the thing. When they announced The Last of Us, there were people who said, what are you doing? You guys make Uncharted. Sit down, make more Uncharted. And they said no. They said no. We're going to do this. And it ended up blowing up into one of the biggest game franchises of all time. Whether you like it or not, it is on that level. And this could be a similar thing where it's like, hey, maybe we don't see it now, but maybe in 10 years we look back at this and we're like, oh, that's where the franchise started. I don't know. As of right now, I'm like, show me more. Being from Naughty Dog, I'm much more intrigued. But if this trailer came from any other studio, I'd be like, okay, well, that's And I think that's the big thing. The Naughty Dog reputation is carrying a lot of this discourse because I think for most people, if this trailer came from any other studio, it would be across the board. We'll see. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. The 984 Tempest NDX Porsche. But I was really, if you had told me yesterday morning we were getting a Naughty Dog trailer, I was like, oh, that's going to steal the show.
Whitest_rabbit is now a member.
For me, it's Let's see. Buck's Basement, thank you for the 5. I hope Naughty Dog realizes they can't sell the game based on logo anymore. They're in for a rude awakening if they think after The Last of Us Part 2, audiences forgot. I mean, The Last of Us Part 2, I know there's a lot of like negative discourse around it. It still sold fantastically well. It has... I don't know if it still holds the record. I think Baldur's Gate took it actually, but for a while it held the record for the most Game of the Year awards of any game in history. Like there is a bubble of gamers that think it's the worst thing ever, but then there's another bubble that thinks it's a masterpiece and it's fantastic and a masterpiece. So where does the general consumer land? I don't know. But I think that there's a lot of people in their own bubbles, and most games are sold based off of the people in the middle, not in the extremes. Nissan 86, thank you for the 5. Do you think product placement will be the new norm to help offset production costs a la Intergalactic? As a gamer, it's cringe and off-putting. No, I mean, they put like the Sony logo on screen. Like that was not maybe Porsche paid them a little bit, but like, I don't think any of that is changing the budget. I think what that is it's a what's the term? It's like a nod to how movies back in the 80s did everything. Because if you watch some of those movies from the 80s, everybody, like Jurassic Park, I think that was early 90s technically, but like even that, where they have the shaving cream that the things are transported in, and the logo very gently pans to the screen, and Blade Runner and all that stuff. Like back in the day, they did that with a ton of movies. Yeah, Adidas, I think they did that too. 80s movies did it all over the place. All the characters are drinking their Pepsi sodas very carefully. It was very normal. And that's to me what they were doing. I don't think that they're like, the game's not going to make money unless we put a bunch of product placement. I don't think that that's it. I think it's just an allusion to those old school films. Naughty Dog's basically gotten a blank check to make this thing. So I don't think that they're having to do product placement to pay for things. Samuel, thank you for the 5. Was slightly a whittle butthurt. You called it Concord 2, lol. But I think it looks really promising. Also, by the way, a ton of elephants in your room. A ton of elephants in my room. I'm like looking around. Do I have something I shouldn't have on screen? Oh, is it just because I keep saying that? Every stream I have like one phrase I just use over and over and over again. I guess today it's that. Yeah, I thought calling it Concord 2 was funny because to me visually it strikes a similar vibe, but I understand some people got butthurt. I thought it was funny. But I understand some people got a little upset by it. I mean, it does look a little bit like okay. I'm moving on. Nissan, thank you for the 5. Even worse, spend money on licensing these products and adding to the money issues. I think it's just they're little nods to the 80s era of product placement in movies. I don't think it's anything more than that. It's like part of the art style. I think that's really what it is. He took my thing.